My name is Brittany Benson. Terry Randall's message flashed across my phone. Dinner tonight. Just you and me. He was my boss. CEO of the $900 million company I worked at for 6 years. But this wasn't a business meeting. The tone was different, too personal, too late at night. I replied carefully. Appreciate it, but I'll pass. The next morning, I was called into HR. The woman handed me a folder without eye contact. Termination due to budget cuts, she mumbled. No warning. No explanation. Just like that, I was erased. But while packing my things, I found it. A black flash drive from a month ago, one I forgot to return. It didn't hold my files. It held the first clue to everything. I stared at the flash drive, unsure why it felt important. It wasn't labeled, but I knew I'd used it to back up reports before that chaotic board meeting. Out of curiosity, I plugged it into my laptop. Inside were dozens of folders, financial summaries, real estate contracts, internal memos. But one folder stood out, titled Q4 Do Not Touch. I clicked. Documents filled the screen. Lafarge Halsem Company registrations, land transfers, account numbers I didn't recognize. Millions of dollars moved between offshore banks. Most linked to something called Harlow Estates Ltd. My stomach dropped. Terry hadn't just fired me over dinner. He'd fired the wrong person. And I had the one thing he thought was buried forever. Proof. Pat Brooks had always been more than a co-worker. She was my best friend. I called her immediately. I think I found something, I whispered. She came over an hour later. We opened the files together. Her background in finance compliance made her perfect for this. She leaned over my laptop, scanning the documents. These aren't just shady, she said. They're criminal. Lafarge Halsem companies. Fraudulent transfers. Brittany, this is massive. I told her everything about the dinner invitation, the firing, the flash drive. She nodded slowly. He's done this before. You're not the first. I stared at the screen, heart racing. If we're doing this, she said, we do it right. I nodded. Revenge wasn't loud. It was calculated. Pat showed me a list of past employees. All women. All gone within weeks of being promoted. Or after refusing friendly meetings. Terry had a system. He charmed, tested boundaries, and erased those who didn't play along. This isn't just fraud, Pat said. It's a pattern of abuse. I checked the Lafarge Halsem Company documents again. Dates of account creation matched key project launches, except no real properties ever existed. Fake developments. Fake buyers. Real money disappearing. And Terry signed everything. I asked, what do we do next? Pat said, you need someone who can dig deeper. Someone who understands encrypted trails. She texted her cousin Eli. He's a ghost online, but if anyone can trace this, it's him. Eli Jennings didn't meet in public places. We found him in a quiet co-working basement, surrounded by monitors. He didn't look up. Pat handed him a flash drive. I need to know what's hidden. Eli plugged it in, fingers moving with impossible speed. This is military-grade obfuscation, he said, impressed. Whoever built this thought they were gods. I watched as he decrypted folders, each one revealing deeper levels of fraud. False land deeds, bribery records, offshore bank routing. It was worse than I imagined. Terry wasn't just cooking books. He was running a $900 million real estate scam on paper. And now, we had the whole recipe. Eli smiled. You just became the most dangerous person he's ever fired. Pat gave me a name, Laura Nick. Investigative journalist. Ruthless. Respected. Connected. She took down a senator last year, Pat said. She'll know what to do. I emailed Laura anonymously. $900 million fraud. Real estate. I have proof. She replied within the hour. Meet me. No names. No photos. Tomorrow. 10 p.m. Warehouse Cafe back table. I was nervous but ready. The next night I wore a hoodie, hat, and sunglasses. Laura was already seated. I slid her a USB and whispered, "You'll want to verify everything." She plugged it into a laptop and blinked hard. "You realize what this is?" "Idol." Laura looked up. And you're not scared? I'm furious, I said. Good, she smiled. Let's burn him. Laura needed one final puzzle piece. A pattern of fake real estate sales tied to investors. That's where Pat stepped in. She quietly accessed internal databases and copied deal timelines. They matched the Lafarge-Halsam Company transfers perfectly. Meanwhile, Eli tracked deleted files from Terry's private account. Each one matched project names used in the documents. He even found emails marked Purge after review. We now had timelines, signatures, emails, and bank routes. Laura was stunned. This isn't just a scandal. It's a takedown. We planned one last push. An anonymous whistleblower report sent directly to the board. With that, Laura could publish the story without risking us. The spark was lit. Now we waited for the explosion. At 6 a.m. sharp, Laura's article dropped. Headline: Exclusive, $900 million fraud scheme uncovered in Randall & Company. Real estate empire. News spread like wildfire. Investors panicked. Stocks dropped 40% by noon. Terry tried to deny everything, releasing a bland statement. Baseless lies. Internal investigation underway. But it was too late. Board members demanded emergency meetings. Regulators called. And clients? They started pulling contracts left and right. The empire Terry built was shaking. And me? I watched from my small apartment window with tea in hand. He thought firing me would erase the threat. He had no idea I was just getting started. According to Pat, Terry didn't show up for work that morning. Instead, he locked himself in his estate office, making calls and deleting files. But he wasn't fast enough. Eli hacked in first, cloning every message, folder, and transaction before it vanished. What we found next shocked even Laura. Bribes paid to zoning officials. Falsified insurance documents. Fake employees drawing salaries monthly. It was systematic, precise, and disgusting. Eli grinned. He didn't just cheat the system. He built his own. Laura updated the article with these new findings. Terry wasn't just a fraudster. He was the architect of a multi-layered corporate crime ring. And soon, he'd be trading suits for handcuffs. Miller Hale, one of the most respected board members, demanded an immediate vote. Full audit. Independent review. Suspension pending investigation. Terry tried to stop it, but pressure from shareholders was overwhelming. In private, Miller had already reviewed the flash drive from an anonymous tip me. When Terry walked into the meeting, Miller stood. You're being suspended indefinitely. Security will escort you out. Terry laughed. I built this company. Miller's voice was cold. And you nearly destroyed it. Terry turned to the board. You'll regret this. No, Miller replied. You will. That afternoon, the firm issued a statement. Effective immediately. Mr. Randall is no longer affiliated with Randall & Company. His reign had officially ended. 2 days later, a black SUV pulled up to Terry's mansion. Detective John Criss stepped out with a folder in hand. Search warrant. Arrest warrant. Full case file. Terry answered the door in a robe, smug. That changed quickly. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, obstruction, and money laundering, John said. Handcuffs clicked. Cameras flashed. The whole thing aired live at noon. I watched quietly from my kitchen. Eli texted. He's trending. Pat replied. You did it. No, we did it. But mostly, Terry did it to himself, by thinking a woman's no meant nothing. And firing me was just another item on his long list of mistakes. The headlines hit like lightning. CEO falls after $900 million real estate fraud uncovered. Whistleblower sparks national investigation. Terry Randall arrested after explosive report. Media vultures camped outside Randall & Company. The company hemorrhaged money, employees, and clients. Miller Hale issued a full apology on behalf of the board. Meanwhile, Laura's exposé was syndicated in 22 outlets. But my name? Still a secret. At least publicly. Inside the industry, people whispered. HR reps, compliance officers, mid-level managers. Suddenly, Brittany Benson was known as the one who blew the roof off. And I wasn't done. There were still court hearings, lawsuits, and a broken system to rebuild. But the message had been sent loud and clear. Silence is expensive. Detective John Chris requested a formal interview. I met him in a downtown federal building, hands steady, heart calm. He shook mine firmly. "You're brave," he said. "Not many come forward." "I didn't mean to," I replied. "I just didn't want to disappear." We spent 3 hours walking through the timeline, emails, transfers, the flash drive, Eli's help, Pat's findings. John took notes. "You may be asked to testify." "I'll be ready," I said. As I left, he added, "You helped more people than you know." I nodded. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about stopping predators from hiding behind polished suits and smiling lies. Terry made me feel small. Now the truth made him crumble. Investors sued the firm. Clients sued for breach of contract. Even former employees joined a class action lawsuit against Terry personally. Documents I helped uncover became key evidence in 3 federal cases. I sat quietly in the courtroom during the first hearing. Terry avoided eye contact. His lawyer looked desperate. The judge reviewed the file and called the case deeply troubling. Outside, reporters asked for a comment. I simply said, "I was just doing what he didn't expect, telling the truth." Pat squeezed my hand. "This is bigger than one man." I nodded. But it started with one woman saying no. Pat was promoted to head of risk management at a competing firm. Her role? Strengthen ethics, overhaul reporting systems, and protect whistleblowers. She deserved it. She'd taken the biggest risk of all, staying loyal to me when it could have cost her everything. We celebrated with dinner at our favorite rooftop bar. "To the one who saw the red flags," I toasted. She raised her glass. "To the one who waved them in public." We laughed for the first time in weeks. "I owe you," I said. "No, but replied." He underestimated the wrong woman. That's on him. We clinked glasses. Justice never tasted so sweet. A blog post titled, "The Hacker Who Helped Expose $900 million in Fraud," went viral. Elias' inbox exploded. Offers from security firms, podcasts, TV interviews. He turned most of them down. He hated attention but loved justice. "I'm not a hero," he told me. "You are," I said. "Just a quiet one." He finally accepted a full-time role protecting whistleblowers and nonprofits from cyber retaliation. The world needed more people like him. Smart, fast, unshakably loyal. Without Eli, the files would have stayed buried. With him, they became headlines. He didn't care about fame. He just liked knowing the truth hit daylight. Laura won another journalism award. Her speech was powerful. This story wasn't mine. It belonged to someone who refused to stay silent. A woman who saw something wrong and chose to fight. She never said my name. But I knew. Afterward, she emailed, "If you ever want to tell your side on record, I'm here." I thanked her but declined. For now, the shadows worked fine. I didn't need to be famous. I needed to be free. But someday maybe the world would hear everything. From the dinner invite to the arrest. And when they did, they'd understand what power really looks like. Randall and Company appointed a new CEO. Their first public statement? "We are committed to rebuilding trust and transparency. We condemn any abuse of power and fully support ongoing investigations." Too late. Clients had already left. Reputation in ruins. I watched it all unfold from a park bench, feeding birds, phone silent. I didn't want revenge headlines. I wanted dignity restored, to me, and every woman who lost her job for saying no. Pat texted, "Karma wears heels." I smiled. I didn't need to shout. The silence Terry left behind was louder than any speech I could ever give. An old intern named Jasmine emailed me. She'd read Laura's article and guessed the story behind it. "I said no too," she wrote. "He told me I wasn't a team player." Then I was gone. She thought no one would ever believe her. "Thank you for proving we weren't crazy." I cried reading her words. This was bigger than courtrooms or flash drives. It was about unseen lives. Women who walked away quietly, thinking no one cared. But I cared. And now? So did the world. Sometimes courage means saying something loud. Other times it's whispering, "You're not alone." In court, I stood behind a wooden podium. All eyes on me. Lawyers. Reporters. Cameras. Terry. I told the truth calmly, clearly. Emails, flash drives, dinner invitations, the patterns, the pressure. I ended with this. I didn't come here to destroy anyone. I came to stop someone from destroying everyone else. The judge nodded slowly. The jury listened. And Terry? He just sat there silent. For the first time, he couldn't control the narrative. That power was mine now. And I didn't need to scream to use it. I just had to speak. One word at a time. Terry was found guilty on all counts. White fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy, obstruction. The courtroom gasped as the judge read the sentence. 18 years. No parole. Full asset forfeiture. He didn't blink. I didn't either. It wasn't about watching him suffer. It was about making sure no one else ever would. When court adjourned, I stepped outside into the sunlight. Reporters chased me. I walked past them. The story wasn't mine to explain. It was theirs to learn from. He fired me over dinner. Now he'd be served justice, cold, legal, and sealed with a gavel. 6 months later, I started my own firm, Truth-Layer Consulting. We investigated white-collar crime, supported whistleblowers, and trained corporations on ethics. Our first client? A startup whose CFO was suspected of falsifying returns. They hired us because they wanted another Brittany Benson in the building. That made me smile. Pat joined me as Director of Integrity. Eli ran the data lab. We weren't just cleaning up messes. We were building a new kind of power. Transparent. Fair. Fearless. Terry built an empire of lies. I built something stronger, truth. And this time? No one could fire me. Netflix called. They wanted a docuseries. Working title. She said no. The real estate fraud that shook America. Laura agreed to produce it. At first, I hesitated. But then I thought about Jasmine. But the dozens of women who still stayed quiet. Maybe they needed to hear the full story. I said yes, on one condition. My face stays blurred. My voice stays mine. They agreed. The world would hear the story. Not for drama. For change. Terry had his legacy of greed. Now I'd leave one of courage. 1 year later, I sat across from Pat and Eli at a rooftop restaurant. Real dinner. No tensión. No hidden motives. No boss with an agenda. Just friends. Hard to believe it started with one text, Pat laughed. One no, Eli added. I nodded. One flash drive. One voice. One truth. We raised our glasses. To all the ones who said no and paid for it. And to the ones still waiting for someone to say, I believe you. They said I was difficult, disloyal, disrespectful. All because I said no to dinner. But I wasn't rude. I was right. Terry fired me to protect a $900 million secret. He thought that would end my story. Instead, it started his downfall. He had power, but I had the truth. And in the end, the truth is louder. The truth is braver. The truth is mine. I'm Brittany Benson. I didn't just say no. I said enough. And the world finally listened.